Hello everyone, what's going on? It's me, Sophie, and it is like late o'clock at night, and I think I broke the little clip off of my microphone, so it is really sad boy hours up in here. So I think I'm going to have to improvise for this one. It's gonna be messy, but the fight for good audio is a noble pursuit. Okay guys, so basically what I wanted to do is I feel like when I'm touching it, no, that's not the point. I feel like when I look back at my other videos, they're fine, I suppose, and I think when everyone looks back at stuff that they made back in the past, they kind of regret it. But I think, especially for my like tips and tricks videos, I feel as though I come off as a little fake, sort of. I don't know if anyone else felt that way, but it just felt like it was kind of this like perfect girl that wasn't exactly who I think that I really am or want to represent myself as. I'm not entirely sure if that makes sense to a lot of people, so I wanted to do like an honest reaction and just kind of like heart-to-heart chat sort of thing, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what this video is going to be. So I wanted to talk about the AP classes that I took, the AP exams that I took, and that sort of thing. And I want to be very careful, of course, because I don't want my scores to be canceled. So if it seems like I'm being vague somewhat or kind of like a little wishy-washy about the topic of what I'm actually doing, that's probably why. So I just want to be super safe. I studied really hard for my exams, so I wouldn't want anything to jeopardize that. So yeah, I took 6 AP exams this year, except I wouldn't say took necessarily, because I took AP Capstone Research, and while that did involve a lot of work, it wasn't necessarily like sitting down taking a test sort of work, if that makes sense. You had to write an essay and then do an oral presentation, PowerPoint, slides, video sort of thing, and then your teacher will grade that and whatever. So I don't know if you really consider that a real AP test. I mean, I do, it was a hard class, but there was a lot of work. But tests in particular, it was not exactly like a sit down, I'm writing out a test sort of thing. If you think of it that way, I took 5 AP classes that specifically had a test, and that's more the focus of this video. I will be using some online score calculators, probably albert.io, and I believe there's one called AP Pass. I'm going to try to find whichever one has the most recent projected curve, and of course there's an important disclaimer here. Oh, I touched it again. There's an important disclaimer here, of course, that all of these curves are projected, and the College Board recalculates their curves every year depending on how well students do on certain tests. So of course this is an estimate, these are just my predictions, and I have no idea how many multiple choice I got right. I have no idea what I've necessarily got on my free response questions. So all of this, you know, kind of take with a grain of salt. I don't entirely know exactly what I got, and only the AP graders do. So with that in mind, let's kind of get into it. So my first exam that I took was AP English Literature. So I'm going to pull that up right now on the albert.io. I took AP English Literature. My same English Literature coach was also my decathlon coach, who I really liked. It was a really good class. She was a great teacher and taught us some great strategies. And I always did really well. I don't think I ever got below like 50 out of 55 on any of the multiple choices that we've taken. I kind of consider myself a more like literature, language kind of gal, so that was kind of my forte a little bit, and I felt pretty confident going into the exam. I actually thought the exam was pretty challenging. I thought the multiple choice was a lot more challenging than many of the things that we attempted in class. And while I felt prepared for the essays, I think I kind of got a little bit anxious or like caught up in that a little bit, and I don't think I represented myself as well as I could have on the essays that I did. So I have the score calculator right here. For multiple choices out of 55, I think I'll give myself 45 out of 55, going a little bit on the low side for that one, but I don't think I got above 50 out of 55, which is kind of disappointing, but that's all right. So free response question 1 is the poetry analysis, and I actually thought I went pretty into detail about this. I felt like I had a pretty good analysis and like kind of made an interesting point, if that makes sense. That sounds so vague. I felt pretty good about that one. I'd probably give myself a 7 or an 8. I consider my writing style and conventions to be pretty strong, but I think I might go with 7 on this, just to be kind of on the low side a little bit. Question 2 was awful. It was so bad. I wrote it last. I like almost ran out of time on it. It was just super surface level. There was not much to be said there. Nevertheless, I think that because I have a grasp of style and conventions, I think that should push me above a 5, which is, I believe, the first passing one. I'll give myself a 6 on that one. And then for the question 3, that's the one where you can write about a work of literary merit, I chose Ender's Game on this one, which I think is something of an unconventional choice. but you're just going to be reading a lot of Great Gatsby essays, evidently. I do not think that it was the most in-depth that it could have been. I did not feel amazing about it, and usually the question 3 is when I really come in. I had prepared really well for 2 selected works that I thought I could really apply to everything, but then when I got on the test, the prompt didn't really resonate with those works that I thought I prepared really well for, so I decided to do something else that I had studied for previously. So it was just not really the best situation. I think I'd probably give myself a 7, maybe. So really not my best work at all. Let's see. This score curve is from 2009, so not super accurate in the least. It says my predicted score is a 5, but I think that's a really optimistic one. I'm gonna go and do AP Pass and see if they have a more current curve, and then we'll try that. So for multiple choice right, I said 45 out of 55. For the poem essay, I think I gave myself a 7, right? Yeah. For the prose essay, I think I gave myself a 5. That analysis essay, I think I gave myself a 7. Is that right? Calculate. So AP Pass is telling me right now that I will get a 5. I think that's pretty optimistic, honestly. The thing about AP Literature is that it's so subjective, which sounds crazy when you're considering AP scores, but because they're all being graded by a grader, and because literary merit itself is, you know, somewhat wishy-washy of a concept, I suppose, it really depends. If someone reads an absolutely stellar essay and then reads yours, your score might suffer a hit. Whereas if there's been like a whole slew of really terrible essays and you have an interesting question 3 about a book that someone didn't really read that much and that many essays about before, and if you just have like a bunch of terrible stuff and then yours is really good, then your score may be seen as comparatively better. So I don't feel very strong about making a definitive statement about what I got on this one. I think if I had to estimate, I would give myself a 4. I personally don't really think I would deserve a 5 on this exam, and that sounds really harsh, but that's just honestly how I feel right now. I'm really conflicted about this test because, like I said, my AP Literature teacher was also my decathlon teacher, and I'm really close with her. She's a really awesome teacher, and she really taught me a lot, and I really enjoyed her class, and I feel like I let her down. So yeah. Yeah, that was a disappointing test. So, gosh. Let's go on here. Okay, I'm back on Albert.io. So, for this exam, there's a little more tea, I suppose. So my European history teacher was also my world history teacher, and the way that my teacher structures our class, at least in world, was that it was more of a direct teach, sort of, and then in the second half of the semester, the students taught all the materials for presentations. I personally am not the biggest fan of the study method because I feel like I didn't learn too much when I was having other people present the material that they were really just getting from the book and didn't have a deeper level of analysis or connections with. So that was kind of like European history, but all year. Basically, my teacher did not teach us at all, and we all taught ourselves. So I knew about second semester and a little bit earlier that this was just not going to work for me. So what I did is I just read the textbook, took notes on the textbook, and made Quizlets for all of the key terms in the textbook. I studied my tail off for this exam. I watched a ton of Tom Ritchie videos. If you've done European history or like government, I think he does as well. You're probably familiar with Tom Ritchie. Phenomenal guy, absolutely awesome. So yeah, I really prepared hard for this exam. I felt pretty great about this exam. So let's go through it. Multiple choice is pretty easy. I think I'll go same as literature, where I'll say I missed 10 questions each. Maybe I'll go 44. So yeah, I think it was pretty good. Short answer question 1, because they've been released, I can talk about them. Short answer question 1. I felt okay about it. I think I probably got a 2 out of 3. Short answer question 2 was about, I gave myself a 2 out of 3 for that too. And then the third one was about, oh, I went off on the third one. 3 out of 3, bro. Thank you, Tom Ritchie. Like, DBQ, I felt pretty solid about. I think I had some kind of like DBQ strategy things I learned. I probably give myself a 6 out of 7 for that. And then my LEQ, I think my LEQ is just okay. It's gonna be so generic compared to all the other kids because I did prompt 4, which literally everyone else in the world picked. I think I'd give myself a 4 or a 5 on that one. So Albert.io, this is with the 2019 projected curves. This is about as current as you can get, is predicting my AP scores of 5. I feel like if I were to lowball it, I'd say that I might have got a 4, but I really feel that I probably did get a 5 in this exam, which I'm happy about because it's kind of valorizing if you prepare a lot for an exam and then you do well on it. I don't know, it feels good. Oh, I realized. So AP Capstone, you don't, at least AP Capstone Research, you, like I said, you don't really have a sit-down exam. I think that if I was erring on the low side, I think I might have got a 4. Erring on the high side, I think I might have got a 5. I know my teacher will score me really, really well for the presentation side. And then I think that my essay itself was pretty solid. I really enjoyed the Capstone class. I actually got to reach out and talk to a professor who's like the leading scholar in the field on Godzilla because that's part of what my paper was about, which is really exciting. I don't know, I enjoyed the class a lot. So my next AP exam was AP Chemistry. Like I said earlier, I'm definitely an English type of gal, so AP Chemistry I did not study extremely hard for. I had a good chemistry teacher. She did not give us a ton of homework or prep and that sort of thing, so I think I was definitely weaker in the multiple choice. I personally found the multiple choice very challenging, which is, you know, I kind of went on the AP Students website afterwards because I wanted to look at some memes and kind of dabble and see what other people thought of the documents, or the, not documents, what I'm talking about, I'm thinking about history, the free responses. And they were like, oh my gosh, the multiple choice was so easy. And I was like, bro, I thought it was hard. So I think maximum, I think I got a 42 out of 60 on the multiple choice. Free response question 1, I think, see, I don't remember exactly what they were, but as soon as I finished the free responses, I thought they were really good. There was some stuff that I just like goofed and made silly mistakes on, but on the whole, I felt solid about these. So first free response question, I think I'm gonna give myself an 8 out of 10. The second one was hard. I'm gonna give myself a 5 out of 10 on that one. And if it seems like I'm kind of like making these numbers out of nowhere, I actually did a ton of research on this, and someone worked out all the problems on AP Students, and I figured out which ones I think I got right and wrong, and I kind of remember them. Question 3, I'm gonna go 7 out of 10. Free response 4. There was one that was about, and I popped off on that one. I think I got full marks on that one. So I don't remember exactly which one it was, so I'm just going to put it down for question 4, full marks. The other ones were pretty easy, so I'll do 3, 3, and then I think the last one was hard. So, or one of them was hard. I don't exactly remember it. This is probably something like I'm just making up these numbers, but trust me, like I've been through all this before. So my projected score is a 4. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to dabble around the numbers just a bit and see what would bump me up. Interesting. So if I got 2 more points on a free response, then that would push me up to a 5. I'm gonna mark it back down. Or if I got 3 more multiple choice problems right. Of course, this is a projected score. I'm not entirely sure. In my heart of hearts, I feel like I got a high 4, which is really remarkable for me. I'm not upset about that at all. All I really wanted to do was pass chemistry, so like doing this well on the exam, what I believe that I did well on the exam, is pretty amazing. Another thing is, you know, this doesn't count in, I might have mixed up sig figs, or I might not have put in the right unit, so that's always some points to keep in mind. And then who knows if my guessing was as good for the questions I didn't know. So all that to say, I think that I probably most likely got a 4 on AP Chemistry, which I'm very, very happy about. My next exam was calculus. So here's the deal with calculus. At my school, we have a really great AP Calculus teacher, and there's always this kind of running theme when I've spoken to seniors who were taking the class last year, and even when I was in that class. And the idea is, if you do all your work that you have to do, if you do all your homework, if you know the material, you're going to get a 4 or 5. Part of that's because the AP Calculus exam is so hard, the curve is ridiculous. Like if you get a 65 average, then you get a 5, which is super low to be able to get a 5 on, which shows that you have like a mastery of the material, which just proves that it's hard. So I watched every calculus video. I did we have these things called after parties that you have to do. I did every single one of them, even when they weren't due. Always did my homework, always studied for tests. I did every single review packet, and we probably had 20 of them. Every single review packet, every single problem on those reviews leading up to the exam. And I thought the multiple choice was a lot better than the practice multiple choice that we had done. We did a mock exam like a few months ago before the exam, and I thought multiple choice was so much better. And the free response, if any of you took APBC, then you probably know what I'm talking about. There was a free response that I just goofed on. And it wasn't even a goof, because a goof seems to entail a simple mistake or like a silly mistake, and it was not. There was just problems of a type that I had never seen before, and I had never experienced that on a calculus exam. Like, even in our mock exam, which was the old BC calculus exam from either last year or a few years ago, there were problems that I got wrong for sure, but it wasn't because there was like no fundamental foundational knowledge at all. It was just I kind of knew what I was doing, but I just made a mistake. Whereas this was like I had nothing. I was not equipped in any manner to take on. I'm especially thinking of free response question number 2 right now. So going from that, it was just extremely disheartening and just really not a good situation at all. I don't know, this is gonna make me sound like I'm blaming my teacher, which I'm not. I really kind of felt betrayed almost just by the convention that people had that if you study and prepare and do well, you'll get a good grade and you'll do well in the exam, and that was just not my experience whatsoever. So let's do this. Multiple choice is out of 45. I think we will go 32. There were only 2 that I had to guess on. Maybe we'll do 35. Free response question 1 was easy. I'll give myself an 8 out of 9 just in case I missed a point here or there. Free response question 2, I'm gonna give myself a 1 because honestly, I'm giving myself a 1 for that. Free response question 3, I'll just give myself like low 4, 3, 2. See, like, I don't even remember these. So, with that being said, right now my predicted AP score is a 5. I haven't tried to calculate any of these anymore. Like, I extensively calculated my chemistry one because I was really ecstatic about that. Right now it's saying that my predicted AP score is a 5. I'm gonna ding my multiple choice a little more, down to 30, and then my predicted AP score is a 4. I don't know how I feel about this. Then again, like, I literally have no idea how I've done in my calculus exam. I'm kind of at a loss for words. Part of me is happy seeing this, but part of me is disappointed. Not really even in myself, just because I know I did poorly on this calculus exam. And I was just frustrated because I know I can do better. And I almost feel like if I had had 5 minutes to just like collect myself and calm down, I don't even know. It was just, I feel weird about that. Oh well. Okay, then my last exam was AP Art History. I love art history. So I prepared pretty extensively for exam. I memorized all the art identifiers except for the dates because that's tomfoolery. So anyways, like I was saying, I like art history a lot. I already knew a lot of it because of academic decathlon, and so that foundation was really strong in undergirding my knowledge of the historical events and periods, and it was helpful that I was taking AP European history at the same time, and I already had a pretty strong knowledge of many of the artists that we were studying because of either academic decathlon or even European history. So I felt very strong going in. I knew all of the art pieces. I did all of my work. I had prepared for this exam very, very well, and it helped that I was just interested in it. So for the multiple choice right, I probably give myself 60 out of 80, and that's like a low estimate. The long essay one was about, which I'm pretty sure everyone else did. I'll give myself a 5 out of that. I just didn't think, it was kind of interesting. Some of my short answers were as long as my long essay, so I was like, I don't know. We didn't practice essay writing super much in that class, which is one of the things I would have liked to prepare a bit more, especially because all of my other exams, I feel like they're very focused on the test, whereas my teacher for AP Art History was not so much focused on strategies about certain tests, which I suppose might be a better teaching method per se, but it was not as encouraging just going straight into the exam. My second long essay, what was that about? Oh shoot, I keep touching it, I'm sorry. I thought it was fine. I'd probably give myself a 6. Short essay one was, oh my gosh, it was so stupid. It was about the short essay one was pretty easy. I'll give myself a 4. Short essay 2, oh, short essay 3, okay, short essay 2, maybe that one wasn't. Oh my gosh, one of the essays was about very obscure, in my opinion, material object that we studied very little on. I'll give myself a 3. I knew what they were going for. I knew the facts that they were going for, but I knew so little facts about it. I didn't feel like my essay was extremely strong. I think I had 3 talking points and I had to make an entire short essay about that. Short essay 3, I popped off on, guys. I went ham. 5 out of 5. Short essay 4, I thought was fine. Again, it was kind of like one of those things where I felt like I had a few talking points. I give myself a 4 on that one. So let's see what AP Pass is telling me I'm gonna get. I feel like I probably got a 5 on this exam. Yeah, AP Pass is telling me that I'll get a 5. This is gonna sound a little conceited, but that's kind of what I expected. Yeah, so I was happy about that. So I guess I can close these down. All right. So I guess if I have any closing remarks, I think this year of AP testing was a little different than last year. I only took one more AP exam, but I felt as though it was more challenging just even going through AP week and taking all that. 4 of my 5 AP exams I was actually sitting down and taking were all on the same day, i.e. I had 2 on one day and then 2 on another day. So that was kind of challenging. It was kind of nice to get them over with at the same time too. For some reason, I think it was harder than last year because I think last year was maybe a little more spaced out, and I think my APs that I was taking last year were a little easy, or maybe I was a little more prepared for them. I'm not entirely sure. I guess if I had any closing remarks, I think one of the reasons that I was most upset about some of my exams was I felt like I disappointed my teachers a little bit, especially with AP Literature, but even with AP Calculus, I felt like my teacher kind of had writing. I don't want to say that she had expectations writing on me or something like that, because I'm not some like stellar math student who's like, oh my gosh, I know everything and I'm gonna get a 5 on this exam. Absolutely not. But I was one of the better calculus students in my class, at least, and so it was kind of hard to go on that test and then just feel annihilated. Like coming out of that and then immediately having to go and take art history was really hard. It was kind of valorizing though a little bit, going from calculus and seeing something and literally having no idea to going AP art history and being like, please, I know this. That was nice, but it kind of felt cheap a little bit too. So I was disappointed because I felt like I had done everything that I had to do and still was not rewarded. But that's really life. I don't know, and that's gonna sound like a weird conclusion to draw from this experience, but I think one of the things that I felt like I learned from high school is that I had an expectation that if I put in the work and I do my work, then I will get what I deserve, but that's not life. That is not how things work, really. So I think taking these exams and learning that was a valuable lesson. There are many test-taking strategies that I had learned previously that I was able to implement in these exams, and I think that my teachers prepared me well on the whole, definitely. There's no ill will towards any of my teachers, and I don't know if I have any regrets really, because I don't know what I would have done differently, if that makes any sense. The real mistakes that I think I made, even in my preparation, was maybe just losing my cool a little bit when I was taking the exams. So anyways, those are my predictions. I think if I had to set out like baseline predictions, I kind of wrote it down in my journal actually, things that I think are optimistic and realistic. So for realistic, for Capstone, we'll say 4. For literature, we'll say 4. For, what's after literature? What did I take after lit? Euro, we'll say 4. Really 5, but we'll say 4. Chemistry, we'll say 4. It's gonna be a 4 kind of year. For calculus, we'll say 3. For art history, we'll say 5. I don't know. I think for Euro and art history, we'll say 5. Optimistic, Capstone, we'll say 5. For lit, we'll say 5. For Euro, we'll say 5. For chemistry, we'll say 4. I mean, like, in the most optimistic of circumstances, maybe 5. But the reason I say 4 is because the FRQs were so easy, I think they're gonna curve it back and be like, nah, dude, we can't give out all these 5s, these undeserving students. 4 for optimistic. For, oh my gosh, what is it? For, what are my other tests? Calc, we'll say optimistic, 4 or 5. And then for, what's my last exam? Art history, we'll say 5. So yeah, those are kind of my conclusions I've drawn from this. As you can tell, I'm still kind of emotionally working out this experience. This AP test didn't like shatter me or like change me as a person or anything like that, but it was definitely a wild ride to go through, and I'm quite intrigued to see how the scores are going to turn out. Honestly, I have no idea what to expect except for chemistry, because I know I'm going to get a 4 in chemistry. I have it down to a science, one might say. So anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I kind of enjoy this like chat-ish, kind of letting barriers down, if that makes sense. So if you like this type of video, let me know what you'd like to see in the future, and we'll see how I do in my AP test. Bye guys.